On the eastern coast of New Zealand, in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean, lies the small city of Kaikoura, known throughout the world as one of the most important sites for observing marine mammals. Recently, the city has experienced rapid growth and total transformation thanks to ecotourism, which attracts visitors from almost 90 countries. Since the 1980s, new businesses have prospered. With the help of professionals, nature lovers can not only observe whales here, but also swim with dolphins and sea lions. Today, marine mammals have a great number of human friends, known as whale watchers, who come from all over the world to get a close look at these animals in their natural habitat. The Whale Watch Company is directed by the Ngai Tahu Maori tribe. Tribal members are natives of Kaikoura and know the region's ecosystem better than anyone else. For the Maoris, man is merely a visitor to all this natural beauty, in which all living things have their own place in nature and which must be respected. Today, they apply this philosophy to a flourishing activity, taking visitors out to sea to observe Paraoa, the cachalot or great sperm whale. The Ngai Tahu tribe lays claim to an ancestral link with this mammal, since their legendary ancestor, Paikea, came to this land on the back of Tohora, the mythological cachalot whale. And yet the descendants of Tohora almost disappeared from this coast, since during the previous century, the city's reputation was based on whale fishing. In the 9th century, the Maoris discovered New Zealand, calling it Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. They came from Polynesia on huge pirogues. The elders claimed that the Maoris were guided along the coast by a group of whales. Maoris have always had a strong link with whales. They consider them to be supernatural and the guardians of ocean-sailing ships, which help shipwrecked sailors or those in distress. Tribal wars were once very frequent. They could be caused by the need to restore lost honor, or to make reparations for the violation of a taboo, as well as to restore a chief's authority. Slavery, torture, and cannibalism were also widespread. Dances were an integral part of their social life and fulfilled various functions. The war dance, the haka, was performed by armed warriors before confronting one another. This dance, in its least violent version, was also performed by women for occasions ranging from funerals to welcoming ceremonies. The warriors stuck out their tongues as a symbol of defiance or for keeping evil away, and also as a symbol of the power of speech. Maori art is very representative of these facial expressions. Maoris believed that the land was the domain of the spirits and the gods and could not be possessed. Permanent fires marked the occupation of a territory. The village resembled an extended family, including grandparents, uncles, and cousins. The society was divided into two classes, commoners and aristocrats. Traditionally, the aristocrats wore face tattoos. In each line of the tattoo, the life of the person wearing it, his rank in society, and the tribe to which he belonged was inscribed. For certain Maori, one could also see the symbolic representation of their totem animal, which for some was the whale. Cook came to the island in 1769. At first he received a hostile welcome from the Maori, but he was fortunate to have on board a Polynesian chief who could converse with the tribes and succeeded in creating peaceful exchanges. By exploring the 5,650 kilometers of coast, Cook created the first map of New Zealand. He observed the presence of numerous pinnipeds, including sea lions, seals, and walruses. Their fur and their fat were basic necessities and generated a considerable amount of revenue. In 1792, the first Europeans to settle in New Zealand were sea lion hunters. 30 years later, large populations of sea lions had almost totally disappeared. Hunters thus turned to whale fishing. The Maori were excellent sailors and very quickly joined crews on 3 masters, sailing the ocean for months in search of these leviathans. In addition to conditions being extremely difficult for whale fishers, it was also a highly dangerous profession. Stories abound making the whale a merciless monster crashing into harpooners' rowboats, destroying them with its head or its tail. After long hours of struggle, the dying whale was hauled onto the vessel to be cut up or flensed. The fat was cut into briquettes, melted in cauldrons to extract their oil, releasing a pungent, foul-smelling smoke for miles around. Installations on land were less dangerous and more efficient. As of 1820, whaling establishments had been set up on the coasts of New Zealand. Some Maori already possessed their own hunting station. It was an enterprise requiring technique, organization, and lots of equipment. Cutting up an 18-meter animal could take 6 days and could produce up to 6,800 liters of oil. The oil extracted from the fat of these whales was used to make soap, to light the streets of European cities, and to lubricate industrial machines. Whale bones of Southern Hemisphere whales were used to strengthen corsets, chairs, and umbrellas. Whalers also extracted from these cachalot whales the famous spermaceti, an oil superior in quality to that of the melted lard, as well as gray amber used in making perfume. To escape the boredom of long fishing expeditions, the sailors would sculpt and carve the mammal's teeth, known as scrimshaws. Many Maori divided their time between agriculture and whale fishing. The European influence on their way of life led to many changes in their culture and traditions, notably in the areas of religion and education. In 1842, the chief of the Ngai Tahu tribe permitted a young Scottish whaler named Robert Fife to settle in the Kaikoura Peninsula. He became the first person to establish a whale hunting exchange. Until it closed in 1922, the Kaikoura station was the most prosperous in New Zealand, with 100 employees. These pioneers were the founders of the city of Kaikoura. Today, New Zealand protects the various species of marine mammals which live or which migrate along its coast. The wealth of this fauna attracts a great many visitors, and the Ngai Tahu community has considered an economic change for the tribe. Maori chief Te Peni O'Regan tells us about the difficult beginnings of the first company in the city.
20 years ago, this region was very badly hit with economic change. And a lot of our people, 2,000 plus of them, were put out of business. They lost their jobs, they lost their homes, And in the restructuring of the New Zealand economy, they were victims. And one of my very dear friends, the late Widomu Solomon, was the leader of this part of our people. And he and I and some other friends within our tribe, we got together. We started this business of whale watching, and we got into quite big difficulties with the government of New Zealand because they argued that they owned the environment and they owned the ocean. And we said that under the Treaty of Waitangi they did not. And we had big battles in the courts over many years over our rights of access to resources in the sea, in fisheries and in whales. We were partially successful, sufficiently successful for the government to negotiate with us an arrangement whereby they would set the standards for the protection of marine mammals, but we would have for a defined period, quite a long period, the economic rights or economic priority of access to the whales.
The Whale Watch Kaikoura company is the Maori community's main source of income and the region's largest employer. There are whale symbols everywhere, from T-shirts to keychains. The company strives to protect the environment and also participates in educating youngsters and sensitizing them to the whale's cause. Some of the profit is given directly to an educational, social and cultural center, which helps young Maori prepare for a diploma or to follow a training program.
At different times during our development, we struggled within the community. Some of the Whale Watch property was damaged mysteriously, and but we put our heads down and our tails up and kept working through this, and the community has sort of gotten behind the whole Whale Watch initiative and the development of tourism today. And today it's a community very much changed from the old days, and we're all moving basically much like a river, all in the same direction.
I think it's a good opportunity for people to come out, see what all the fuss is all about. A lot of people who they hear all the stories, don't whale, whales should be protected, but a majority of them have never seen whales. They never know what it feels like to be next to a whale. And I think Whale Watch Kaikoura brings tourists out to give them the opportunity to see what they like.
As we move along in the Kaikoura region, this will move around to give us how we...
Because of the existence of an underwater fault off the coast, a population of cachalot live here all year round. This super predator hunts for giant squid in the lower depths.
About 55 kilometres an hour.
Once the boat reaches the zone, a hydrophone is lowered into the water by the guide, enabling him to determine where the animal will surface. This can take some time, since the colossus can remain underwater from 30 minutes up to 2 hours and can dive as deep as 2,000 meters. The macrocephalus, or giant whale, has fascinated generations of whalers. Today, this fascination is shared by hundreds and thousands of spectators. The cachalot's organism is unique. It has the largest brain in the world, and it makes use of it. Thanks to the organ of spermaceti lodged in its skull, it is just as talented at deep sea diving as it is at echolocation and language.
Oh, shit. Oh.
We want to preserve the whales of this coast, and we advocate amongst other Indigenous people the preservation of whales and mammals, because they are the big charismatic figures in this place that we can take people to see, and we now hunt them with cameras.
The public is delighted to get close to these huge mammals, and it is instrumental in supporting their protection. Scientists, however, are worried about the impact of this infatuation on the animals. Anton van Helden is a researcher for the Department of Marine Mammals at the Wellington Museum.
Whale watching is a really important industry in New Zealand, and there are a lot of people that want to get into that industry, but I think it's very important that that industry is regulated so that there is not a huge impact on the whales themselves. The Department of Conservation has guidelines which restrict the number of vehicles that you can have around an animal at any particular time. Here in New Zealand we have helicopters, boats and planes that are around the animals, so that needs to be restricted so that the behaviour of the animal isn't too greatly affected.
In 1978, the New Zealand government passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which provided total protection for marine mammals within a 200-mile area around the coast. This is why activities such as swimming with dolphins require a permit and are subject to strict regulations. Scientists feel that the swimmers could perturb the behavior of these wild animals if basic rules are not respected. It's a long-standing tradition for the Maori to sculpt precious wood, jade, and the bones and ivory of whales which run aground on the coast. It's a noble art, and the Maori who insist on maintaining their cultural identity are proud to wear these treasures.
We've always claimed the rights of ownership in stranded whales. Whales that die naturally and come onto the coast. We claim the bone, the teeth, and the right to extract that. The conservationists all want to have big funerals for them and bury them, and they carry all their green religion, but we want these items because we make these treasured taonga, we call them, that we wear.
The practice of carving whalebone and wearing whalebone was really a product of a whole social occasion in pre-European times, when a whale washed itself up and made itself available as a resource to the iwi, or to the hapu, to Māori people. Those whales were ritually flensed and were given names, there were songs composed about them, and the whole occasion was marked in the collective memory of the tribe. And one of the lasting ways in which the collective memory was held about that particular occasion was by honouring the whale Tohora Paraoa, or whatever it was, by carving.
Thanks to their work, the Maori of Kaikoura have contributed to changing people's perceptions of their country's maritime environment. Whales, however, still struggle for survival. In addition to a deteriorating and polluted environment, whale hunting could return at any moment. The International Whaling Commission adopted a moratorium in 1982, creating only a pause in commercial whaling. In addition, whaling countries are not required to respect this measure. They've even invented the concept of scientific hunting. Using the study of whales as a pretext, they continue their whaling and their sales of derivative products.
We do not want to see commercial whaling started in this region. We support the Southern Ocean moratorium on commercial whaling. But we support Indigenous people in other parts of the world who wish to be able to continue their customary harvest of whales. We're generally against industrial whaling.
From my perspective, if New Zealand as a country got back into whaling for the whale watch industry, I think it would be disastrous. The first thing that will happen is we all know there's whales here, and a lot of the whales that we have living here that we've built up a rapport with will no longer be targeted by cameras but targeted by harpoons. And I think we would have lost more than just the whales. We would lose, a big part of our history and a big part of our future.
Whales have always made men dream, and they continue to do so. Their size, of course, is impressive, but so is their intelligence and their kindness. Underwater life fascinates us because it's invisible, obscure, and mysterious. We still have thousands of wonderful secrets to learn from marine mammals, which could illuminate the horizon of the waves and the darkness of the ocean depths. Through its history as well as its legends and beliefs, the Maori people bear witness to a destiny closely linking them to the sea and its animals. The Maori know that should they lose the whales, they would lose vast fragments of their dreams, their myths, and their most beautiful poems. In other words, everything that made them the people they are.